YouTube, what is up? Today we are doing a Rance Sits review. If you're new here, hello, my name is Aiden. We do a lot of playthroughs on the channel, though it mainly focuses on visual novel content, and Rance is arguably a visual novel. I don't actually really consider it one, but some people do, so whatevs. So if you are interested in watching my full playthrough of Rance Sits on the channel, you can check out the channel and find it yourself. We also have playthroughs of Rance 3, Rance 4, Kachiko Rance, Rance 5D, and the reading the digest of Rance 1 and 2. So basically all of the old games and 5D and Rance 6. One of the goals is to play through all the Rance games. So still got a while to go, but yeah, that's the Rance journey. So Rance Sits. Rance is a series. Like each game, the gameplay differs heavily, and they love to change it up from conquest style games to dungeon crawlers like this to whatever the fuck 5D was, like a hybrid of dungeon crawler and roulette. They're a very dynamic. It's a very dynamic series gameplay wise, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it falls a bit short. I'm looking at you, Rance 4.1 and 4.2. But in general, I think I really enjoyed this game. I know this one's a little more mixed in public reception, but I'll be honest, out of what I've played, um, I think this is probably my favorite dungeon crawler. And then I guess comparing this to Rance 3, 4, and 5D, I would say this is probably my favorite dungeon crawler. So let's just go over some of the aspects. Story-wise, it's Rance loves to do this thing where they have like every other game is like a grand story of like a revolution thing, kind of, or saving a country. Like Rance 3 was basically Lysis getting conquered by Helman and the Dark Lord, like army mix, and you have to save Lysis. Bring the Lysis royalty back to power. This game, it's Rance joins through some mishaps. Rance ends up joining a revolutionary army trying to overthrow the authoritarian magician regime, basically, which treats non-magicians as subhumans, and it's a very bad place. And then, even though I haven't played it, there's the Helminian Revolution, which I don't exactly know what it is, but I assume it's basically having a revolution, taking the people out on top. And in some sense, Sengoku Rance should also be categorized as kind of a revolution. Probably Rance is like saving the world or whatever. Revolutionize against the demons. They love this. They love that story structure, which I think is cool. It's a little like even though they have vastly different plots, a lot of the same thematics go into it. So that's why I actually do sometimes prefer the smaller scale stories like Rance 4 and Rance 5D, where they seem like insignificant compared to the bigger ones, but it's a nice change of pace. But yeah, it's a big scale thing. I think they did a great job at showing how shitty the ruling magicians are. Obviously, there's some good apples mixed in, but yeah, it's just a horrible country if you're not a magician. Literally, like slave labor, fucking underground arenas to watch the slaves die. They're just actually treated as subhumans. Definitely a pre-end game of this game's death might have been like the worst country. It was. They did a very good job at showing how shitty it was. I think the general plotline was pretty good. There's some twists and turns, especially when the Dark Lords got involved. The betrayal of Abbott, which you could probably see a mile away. There's a lot of foreshadowing to this guy. Hey, this guy's kind of sketchy. I think it was pretty enjoyable. It's a little like not as well paced just because of a bit of grindiness in the game, especially once you hit the end game stuff. But if you picturize the story as one flowing tale, I think it's pretty interesting. when Aber betrays Camilla at the end and throws like a spear at her face because he realizes she isn't the ideal girl he's looking for, was pretty sick, and I didn't really see that one coming. You know, Aber basically saying, "Hey, I'm just gonna be like you, Rance, kind of. I'm gonna be like the Dark Lord version of you at the end." That was pretty sick. There's a lot of cool moments. I think especially the second half when it really gets into action, when the monsters invade and stuff. It's pretty tense throughout. So I think the story's pretty solid. Obviously, a lot of the good in the Rance story is the characters itself. You know, heavily carried by Rance, who while is not a great person, at the same time he is extremely charming. In a weird, I know it's kind of weird to describe Rance as charming, but he is charming. He's funny. I love the depiction of like a character who's really cocky to the point where he's like seemingly annoying, but at the same time he actually has the strength to back up his cockiness. Like an extreme version of this would be like Gilgamesh from the Fate series, who's like, oh, this guy's so annoying, but like he can probably just kill everyone if he tried. sort of like Rance. Rance is like literally like the superhuman Chad who is annoying and not a great person, but at the same time he's goofy, he's memeable, you know, he kind of has a heart if for certain situations. He's a very, very likable character, which is I feel like it's pretty hard to craft considering the bad stuff he does. So obviously Rance was great in the story. You know, we got Syl back, who, I mean, no, Syl was in 5D. Was she in 5D? No, she wasn't. Was she? Yeah, she was. I'm confusing 4.1, 4.2. But Syl, you know, Syl's always great. Syl's my favorite female cast. I think her and Rance's dynamic is always fun to watch. You know, you got your classics, you know, the classic girls, Shizuka, Maria, Kanami, all to their usual antics, I would say. I guess specifically for character development, there's a lot more for Shizuka, which made sense because they're in Zeth and the whole avenging her father thing, which they kind of planted that seed in Rance 3, and finally that paying off is pretty cool, with Nagi being... Not Nagi's whole thing being pretty cool, and teasing that for like the future series. I just one thing I say, I wish there was a bit more like Syl stuff in this, because she does come from Zeth. You know, they kind of focused on it a little bit in the beginning of the game. I don't know, I thought maybe put some more stuff into it. I don't know. But yeah, generally the old characters have performed pretty well. We got a whole brand new cast of some new characters. Some highlights would be like Rocky. I thought Rocky was probably my favorite addition. He's like the male version of Syl, kind of, so I really enjoyed him. Gandhi and his two assistants, I thought were also really fun characters. Then we get to like sort of like those are like the high ranking characters I really like. The sort of like middle, which I thought were like still pretty interesting. I'd put Urza in there, though I wish there was a bit more with her in the end game. I guess she like pretty much finished her character growth in like the second third of the story. So I wish there was a bit more for her. Like it would have actually been, I know they kind of like show up at the end after Rance beats Aber, but I wish they were kind of involved in him losing. I think that would have been pretty cool. Magic, you know, very Magic the Gandhi, very divisive character almost. I know not a lot of people liked her. She's sort of more like mixed feelings. I liked her. I thought she was fine. I thought she had some funny moments, some cute moments. Another tsundere added to the mix. You know, there's levels. There's like Shizuka, which is like the Omega tsundere, and then I think Magic would be like on the lower level because she obviously likes Rance now. I liked her. I know some people say they enjoy the Kichiko version of her more. I think I would disagree just because there really wasn't that much of her in Kichiko. Like I barely remember what her character was, so I liked her. She was cool. Hamanegi, I guess, would also be in that ranking because he was fairly interesting and fairly involved. Little creepy man. And then like all the rest, like no, I would put Patton there too. I think Patton, it's nice seeing Patton, especially if you remove the Tachiko knowledge and just go from Rance 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like, to see how much he changed from like the scrawny twerpy guy into like this huge man who's like pretty honorable, I thought was pretty cool. But then like on the bottom of the list with characters that are like cool but not like that interesting would be like the Ice Flame gals like Maromi and Prisma and stuff like that. The Zeth generals were fine. Papaya, stuff like that. Characters that are like kind of cool, but I don't really care too much about. Also, shout out to Sanatia. I am a Sanatia enjoyer. This just strengthens my resolve. I think Sanatia is like the dark horse of the series, at least for me. I think she's like a super cool character, so it's always nice to see her involved. And she had a really fun character arc, honestly, including the events more so than the actual like story plot line, the major plot line. So yeah, I think story-wise, I really enjoyed the game. I thought they did good on the plot and the characterization. But now let's talk about gameplay, where it gets a little more iffy. Alright, so for the gameplay, it is, again, I said it's a dungeon crawler. It takes, I don't know the direct name for it, but it's like the one where it's first person POV and you like basically like walk in a straight line and you have directions, like a 4-point direction system. It might have a specific name, but something like Bunny Black. And that's the only other game I've played with that sort of system. But Tato, you know, in the Alice's Mansion, he said he used to love that system, and he basically wanted to make a game using that sort of style and just make like the best version of it, which I guess would be this one. And I mean, I can't really compare it to other games since I haven't played it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was unique. It adds like a sort of a depth to the game. Like it adds like if you did just like compared it to something like the 2D isometric view, I think this one adds depth, probably because you'd need to do it 3D. And I think the presentation felt pretty good in general. One thing I did really enjoy about this game is the characterization, or I guess I should say itemization is more like there was actual like builds, like a lot in the Rance games, though they did do it in 5D, but a lot of my 5D stuff is just scattered because it's such an odd game. But like in a lot of games, like you just equip your bis stuff and you go hard. And I guess in this game, there's like 2 item sections. There's equipment, which is just armor and weapon, and that's just linear. There's like not really any thought to it. But I'm talking more about the accessories, which have like varying different effects. Like some raise certain elemental resist, some have like just baseline stats, some give specific buffs. Like there's a lot you can do with that, and I would say I customized like in the medium level. Like I wasn't a super min-maxer where I would check all the enemies on the floor first, then retreat and equip all my specific elemental resist or elemental attack items. I was more, but I did do some customization, especially near the end game where the bosses were harder and you needed to plan a bit more. Like, do I want this character to have a revive, or do I just want to pump them with stats? Like, there's a lot of like things you can do with that, and I thought that was pretty fun to like plan it out. And I think the game's fairly balanced. I don't know the consensus on that. I thought it was fairly balanced. Obviously there was some hard bosses. There wasn't a lot of stat checks though. The only like real stat check in the game was one of the end game bosses, Ipatsu, which is optional, and that's a 1v1 fight, so you do actually need like to level up Rance. But the rest of them, I think you could beat them almost at any level. Like obviously you can't be like super under leveled, but I feel like a lot of them were beatable just by strats and proper formation and stuff. Also, I did enjoy the actual battle system, which was basically turn-based with initiative with the speed stat, which is basically, you know, there's normal turn-based where it's your turn then their turn, like there's a set turn-based. This one, it uses a stat to determine who goes first, which is usually, I think I prefer it more than traditional turn-based. And it's position-based where there's 3 front row, 3 back row, and positioning actually does matter a bit. So there's like a little bit of complexity in the formations. It's mainly composition of what units you want to use more than the formation itself, but I think they did a very good job at the gameplay loop where it's a little bit complex, which, you know, enough to like tinker around with items and team comps for specific bosses or maps, but it's not overly complex where it'll cause people to like have a brain aneurysm like some other games. So I do have a lot of praise for it. I thought the bosses were fine, some a bit challenging, but nothing like incredibly hard. Like probably the hardest boss is like the Hanny King, who was like magic immune. But no, I thought it was pretty balanced. Like obviously you have some stronger characters than others, but it also another way to balance the game was the SP system, which is basically like when you're doing a map run, you can only use each character has a resource called SP, which is how much battles they can participate in. So that's like another way to balance the game. It's a little annoying. Like I thought, how good would this game be without it? Because it makes full clearing a map, like 100% full clearing, a lot easier without having to go back. But it really does like add some diversity to your team building. It adds more decisions. It kind of promotes that style of gameplay, and I think that's actually a net positive. So I'm praising it a lot. What are some negatives? I think a lot of people complain about the grind. In this game, like while there is gold, the currency of gold isn't really that important. It's following an orb currency where there's crab orbs, monkey orbs, and eagle orbs. And basically you exchange that for events, for missions, for upgrades, for items. It's like and you grind those by doing, you know, just going through maps, sometimes picking up mission points, which is not its name, but during my whole playthrough, I was just calling them mission points, which is the orange points, which basically grants you orbs. Now, one of the problems is you can only hold 3 of each orb type, so like, so you can't really stack them. Like if you stack them, I don't think people would be complaining about the grind that much, but because you can't stack them, it gets very grindy, getting all the events and all the items and all the content from the orb stuff. And that's why in the endgame I had several episodes of me just grinding XP, grinding orbs for FR level ups and stuff like that, which is a bit tedious. Obviously it was a bit slower for me since I'm making videos and commentating on it, so obviously my gameplay is just gonna be slower than the normal person who's just playing without reading or talking and stuff like that. But I didn't see it being a little grindy. I didn't think it was like massively grindy, to be honest. Before the end game, you know, we did have a little bit of grinding here and there just for some events, but it never felt like too big of a hurdle. But when you get to the end game, you can definitely feel it a bit. I don't mind it that much, but it can definitely be a little bit of a hassle. I know some people even use cheats just to have like unlimited orbs, just so the game's a bit more well paced, because it does kind of mess up the pacing a bit. I think that's the main complaint. I can't, like, I don't know, you guys can comment on what other things you think is bad, but I think it mainly is just the grinding aspect. I guess map clearing is kind of annoying too, because, you know, to map clear, I mean to basically fully step on every tile 100% of the map, which is tedious and really annoying if you want to fully do that, but sometimes maps are like you only get to go there once or whatever, and you accidentally clear the map or step on an event which just ends your run and you just never have another chance to go there. That's pretty annoying. The monster Dow grind, I guess, could be annoying, especially in the end game. Like, you gotta basically, like, know that, okay, I want to do the 100% map clear and I want to get all the monster Dows, like, at the start of the game. Because when you start late, the catch-up period is pretty annoying, especially the monster Dow grinding. That's basically like, it's like Rance 3 and 4, where you get a monster Dow to, like, low health and then you have to capture her. In the end game, because some of the maps aren't available, they basically just have this map full of every single monster doll, and it took me a long time to like catch this one monster doll missing, because it has all the monster dolls and you just have to keep grinding and grinding until she appears. So yeah, basically grinding issues, a little bit of pacing issues, and I would say the whole end game segment is a little controversial, because basically when I say end game, it's not really the end game, it's basically still the story. So the story kind of ends off in a cliffhanger almost, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Well, I wonder if the story will pick up in a future game. But then they're like, oh, welcome to the end game. And it turns out they just finish all the cliffhanger plot lines in the end game, so it's not really optional. You do have to play it if you want the full experience. And the difference between end game and the full game is basically just like, there's optional bosses, you know, there's basically ways to fully complete stuff. So it's more like if you want to complete everything. The optional bosses are a bit hard, but again, there's no real stat checks in the game, so you could clear it. You just need to be decently leveled and have a decent item build or decent comp to clear it. Which a lot of it just means a stunner. You just need someone who can stun and then go ham off that. So yeah, I guess one complaint is I wish they would have tied in the game better, you know, instead of making this whole end game section, just continued the story, made it flow, maybe add these end game bosses like slowly throughout, like do like weakest to hardest, just to, again, it's pacing issues. They need to work on the pacing and to make the grind a little less annoying. But overall, I actually thought it was fine. Like I said, I think out of the dungeon crawlers of Rance 3, 4, 5D, I would say this is my favorite so far, and I think there's just one more left in the series, which is Rance Quest. And so I guess that'll be like what gets the crown for best dungeon crawler in the Rance series, in my opinion. But no, I overall enjoyed it. I thought despite the pacing issues, I had a generally fun time with it. Maybe that's because I'm recording, so I have like some banter and stuff to do. Maybe it's a little more tedious if you're just playing on your own. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. And I guess final advice would give you the best team comp. Just in case you're planning on playing like Aiden. What's my boss killer team comp? Obviously, you know, each boss is different, but gotta run Rance because he's highest DPS. Gotta run Maria because she has so much utility. Gotta run Syl, or you can run Cell. I guess it's not a gotta, but she has more utility than Cell. I would also recommend Caloria or Konami because they're stunners. You can even go ham and run them both because Konami can frontline. Then you would want to tank either Rocky or Patton. Rocky is better at taunting, he's more consistent, but he has a lot less stats, while Patton is a little less consistent in taunting, but he does a lot more damage and has more stats. You can choose whatever you want. And the final frontline slot, I mean, this is, again, it could be Konami. I liked going Sonikia once you get all her skill upgrades, because she has mass buffs she gives to everyone. Rizna is also a fine choice. If you're in the end game, obviously you probably want to run Seidara, who's really fucking strong. That's why they put her in the end game, because she's probably too strong for the main game. And yeah, that's the comp. Rance. Okay, I'll just put my stamp on it. Rance, Sanakia, Patton, Syl, Maria, Caloria. You'll win the game with that comp. I just some final notes. I guess I didn't technically 100% clear the game. I missed the final Urza ending just because I didn't want to do more orb grinding because the game was done. Also, I didn't play on Insanity mode, which is like New Game Plus, but like harder, I think. Which removes the level caps and just makes everything harder. I'm not really interested in that, so I can't talk about that experience. And I guess it is important to say that I played the official manga gamer release because in the middle of my playthrough, Tada, creator of Rance, King Canny himself, actually, did his fate as he was leaving the company, I think, or at least taking a step back from creative decisions because Rance is done. He basically put out a bunch of patches for the game, and for like all the games, and he did actually have the Tada patch for Rancid, which might have fixed a lot of the issues I'm talking about. But I was in the middle of the playthrough, so I couldn't install it, and I don't really know what it pertains to exactly. So this is just the official manga gamer release. So maybe some of the issues I was talking about or some of my comments were changed through the Tada patch. And I feel like, how do I get the Tada patch? You would need a Japanese copy of the game, and you can install it for free. I think just Google it, and then you would have to use a fan translation instead of the manga gamer translation. So yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it. I had a great time with it. Again, not the most popular answers, but I'm putting my stamp on it. I think it's a little underrated because I actually had a pretty good time with it despite the pacing issues. And it's really cheap. You can buy, if you do want to just play the official release, you can pick it up on Manga Gamer. It comes in a bundle with 5D for like 30 Canadian. It's really cheap in the market where games costs a lot of fucking money now. So having 2 games, even though 5D is a little stuffed, it's still 2 games for $30. And Rancid's taking me 100 episodes to beat. Great value. But yeah, that's all I had to say. If you have any comments, maybe some aspects of the game I missed, or just your general thoughts on Rancid, like how did you enjoy it a lot, or did you hate it, or maybe just not enjoyed it as much as me? Feel free to leave those comments in the description, and I will definitely respond, probably, or at least heart it. But yeah, that's it for me. Next game is Sendoku Rance, which is super exciting. A lot of people consider it their favorite Rance game. This is actually my first Rance game before I even started recording YouTube stuff, so it'll be super dope to revisit it and see how much I like it compared to my memory of playing it like 5 years ago or however long it's been. But yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Hopefully I see you again. And then if you do enjoy Rance content or stuff like Higurashi and Love, some goated visual novels, consider subscribing because that's basically the pillars of this YouTube channel right now. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I see you again in the future. Bye.